The morning Kira and I were thrown out, the sky over Newern burned orange with industrial smoke. I knelt on the broken sidewalk outside our building, my tactical vest still strapped on from last night's failed security shift, watching my 7-year-old daughter hold her stuffed doll and a half-eaten protein bar. Her purple skin seemed to shine brighter when she was scared. And, right now, she was terrified. My name is Marcus Wren, 48 years old, former colonial marine turned struggling guard in a city that had forgotten men like me. The wars had ended. The colony was stable, and veterans like myself were just costly reminders of a violent past no one wanted to recall. Kira stood perfectly still, her orange hair catching the morning glow, her wide eyes fixed on the landlord's enforcer droid as it sealed our door shut. Everything we owned was trapped inside. 3 months of unpaid rent had finally caught up with us. "Papa," Kira whispered, her small purple hand finding mine. "Where will we sleep tonight?" I had no answer. My account showed 8 credits. Enough for maybe 2 meals if we shared them. The few friends I had left were struggling just as badly. I pulled Kira close, feeling the weight of failure settle on my shoulders like iron. We spent the whole first day walking. Kira never complained, even when I saw her little legs growing tired. She just held her doll tighter and stayed near me. By evening, we ended up in the old industrial district where deserted warehouses cast long shadows across empty roads. That was when we heard the crying. It came from behind a rusted dumpster, soft and shattered. The sound of pure hopelessness. I signaled for Kira to stay back, my hand instinctively reaching for the weapon I no longer carried. What I found instead broke something inside me. She couldn't have been more than 4. Purple skin like Kira's, but darker, almost violet. Her orange hair tangled with dirt. She wore a torn dress that might have been nice once, and she held a battered brown suitcase that looked far too heavy for her tiny frame. "Hey there," I said softly, kneeling down. "Are you lost?" The little girl looked up at me with eyes that had seen far too much pain for someone so young. She didn't speak, just stared with that heartbreaking mix of hope and fear that homeless children wear like armor. Kira stepped past me, ignoring my instinct to protect her. She sat down beside the girl and offered half her protein bar without thinking twice. "I'm Kira," my daughter said simply. "That's my papa, Marcus. We got kicked out too." The little girl took the food with shaking hands. "Lissa," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Where are your parents, Lissa?" I asked gently. Her eyes filled with tears.
"Gone.
The sickness took Mama 3 weeks ago. Papa kept working, but he got hurt really bad at the loading docks. They took him to the hospital 2 days ago and never brought him back." She hugged her suitcase tighter. "These are important things. Papa said never let it go." My heart broke. Here was a child even worse off than us. Completely alone in a city that didn't care whether children survived or not. I looked at Kira, who was already holding Lissa's hand, and I knew there was only one choice left. "You're coming with us," I said. That night, we slept in an empty warehouse. The 3 of us huddled close for warmth. I gave both girls my jacket while I kept watch, my old marine instincts returning. 8 credits wouldn't feed 3 people for long. I needed a plan. The next morning, Lissa opened her suitcase. Inside were folded clothes, a few photos, and a small metal box covered in strange symbols I didn't recognize. "Papa said this was the most important," she said, touching it gently. "He found it years ago when he worked the mines on Kepler 7. He said it was worth more than anything, but we had to wait for the right moment." I studied the box carefully. The symbols were clearly not human, and the metal had an odd shimmer to it. Almost alive. "Do you know what it is?" Lissa shook her head. "Papa never opened it. He said it was locked with something he couldn't break. He was saving it for when things got really bad." Her voice cracked. "I guess things are really bad now." I spent the next 2 days asking around the industrial area, showing the box to anyone who might know something. Most ignored me. A few offered insultingly low amounts, hoping I was desperate enough to be fooled. I was desperate, but I wasn't stupid. On the 3rd day, an old Zeltarian shopkeeper named Voss took one look at the box and his 4 eyes widened. "Where did you get this?" he demanded. "It belonged to the girl's father. He's gone now." "She's with me." Voss studied me for a long moment. "Do you know what this is worth?" "No idea." "That's why I'm asking." He leaned closer. "This is a precursor data vault. Unopened. Genuine. These things are rarer than rare. Collectors would pay 50,000 credits easily, maybe double that at an auction, but you need someone who can unlock it without ruining what's inside." He paused. "I know a woman, Dr. Chun. She works at the university. Tell her Voss sent you." Dr. Chun was a strict woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She studied the box using tools I didn't understand, whispering to herself in technical terms. At last, she looked up at the three of us, taking in our worn clothes and tired faces. "This box holds data from a civilization that vanished 10,000 years ago," she said softly. "Opening it could push our xenological research forward by decades. I can offer you 40,000 credits right now." I looked at Lissa, who was gripping Kira's hand tightly. "What do you think, sweetheart?" "It was your father's." Lissa bit her lip, tears gathering. "Papa would want me safe. He'd want me to have a home." She looked at me. "But I want all of us to have a home. You and Kira too." 45,000, Dr. Chun said suddenly. "And I'll make sure the discovery is credited to the girl's father. His name will stay in university records forever." I felt something heavy in my chest finally loosen. "Deal." 3 weeks later, we stood in front of a small but sturdy apartment in a decent district. Nothing fancy, but it had 3 bedrooms, a real kitchen, and windows that actually closed. I had enough left after first and last month's rent to get furniture, clothes for the girls, and start a tiny fund for their futures. Kira and Lissa ran through the empty rooms, their laughter bouncing off the walls as they planned where everything should go. I watched them from the doorway. 2 purple-skinned, orange-haired little girls who had found each other in the darkest moment of their lives. That evening, when I tucked them into their new beds, Lissa looked up at me with those wide, trusting eyes. "Papa Marcus," she said softly, testing the words. "Thank you for not leaving me." "We don't leave family behind," I told her, kissing her forehead. "That's the one lesson from the Marines that was actually worth keeping." Later in the living room, I stood by the window, staring at the city lights. Somewhere out there, other families were still struggling like we had been. Other children were sleeping in alleys. But tonight, in this one small corner of Newern, 3 people who once had nothing now had everything that mattered. A home. And each other.